everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Inside NASCAR. We're in Harrisburg, North Carolina at Darrell Waltrip Motorsports, home of the Parts America Chevrolets, which are driven by Darrell in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. They also keep the die-hard Chevrolet trucks, which are driven by Rich Bickle in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series here. Darrell is part of our program today, and we have lots more for you in this 1 hour of Inside NASCAR.
Do you find yourself still trying to find a ticket to the races this weekend in Texas? Don't feel alone. Tickets to this weekend's inaugural races at TMS have been hard to come by, even with more than 150,000 seats to choose from. We'll fill you in on just how hard a ticket they have been to get. They are rolling garages you see heading down the highway each week, the haulers that carry the cars and equipment from track to track for the race teams. We'll take you to the Featherlight Trailers factory in Iowa and show you how they are manufactured from the ground up. After 5 races of the 97 season, Morgan Shepherd has taken his new ride with Richard Jackson's Pontiacs to 2 top 10 finishes. We'll talk to Morgan about 97 and what's ahead for the rest of the year. All this and more coming up on Inside NASCAR.
Today's show is brought to you by Miller Lite. With the great taste of an ice-cold Miller Lite, life is good.
The NASCAR Winston Cup drivers and teams were off last weekend for Easter, but the Busch cars ran at the Hickory Motor Speedway. And how about Dick Trickle winning his first ever NASCAR race? Let's go to Stephanie Boyd. She'll take a look back at that race and catch us up on all the news.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Saturday edition of Inside NASCAR. It's a big weekend for both the Winston Cup and Busch Grand National Series as they finally christen the long-anticipated Texas Motor Speedway. The Busch Series was scheduled to run the first ever race on the 1.5-mile speedway this afternoon on CBS, with the Winston Cup event scheduled for tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern. We'll fill you in on all the goings-on in the Lone Star State tomorrow on our Sunday morning show, but right now let's catch you up to date on the events leading up to the Texas Shindig. Of course, last weekend was the Easter holiday, which meant the weekend off for the Winston Cup and Craftsman Truck Series. But one Winston Cup driver refused to take it easy, and that turned out to be a smart move. Dick Trickle made his 51st career Busch Grand National start in the Galaxy Food Center's 300 at the Hickory Motor Speedway. His Duralube Chevy was one of only 31 cars that made up the field on the short 1/3 mile speedway. Trickle started 5th based on points after rain washed out qualifying, but he spent much of the early going watching Randy LaJoie and Jeff Green duke it out up front for the lead. The two drivers beat and banged side by side for a couple of laps until LaJoie got into Green, dropping the number 8 back a few spots. Green had some more trouble later in the day, but still managed to finish 4th. With Green gone, Trickle made his move and was able to get by LaJoie for a few laps. But when the FINA machine blasted back by, Trickle settled into 3rd behind LaJoie and his teammate, Kleenex driver Tim Fedewa. As the circuits clicked off, it looked like it would come down to one of the base motorsports drivers. But then with 20 to go, Trickle heated up the tires he'd been saving, and at the ripe young age of 55, went on to collect his first ever Busch Series win.
Took 50 races to win one in Busch. I haven't run that much Busch, but I just got to give Duralube, Sonny and Mark out there for financially sponsors with the money it takes to do the job, because that's one big thing. And then Dennis, the crew chief, or Dennis, the owner, Dennis Shoemaker, Brian, the crew chief, and all the guys, I'm telling you, they worked real hard for me. And I'm telling you, we're after winning one of that Heilig Meyer Ford and Winston Cup too.
Trickle's got a lot of experience on these little old racetracks. Hell, he probably built this place back whenever. And he saved his tires a little bit better than I did. And we wanted to make a chassis adjustment after that second run, and I said, no, I think I used it up on the outside, but damn, should have made an adjustment. But what a great race. I had a great time.
Steve Bird, Brian Smith, the Butch Enders got together, and me, and we sat down, and we changed a lot of stuff, and we were going to either go real fast or go real slow, and it ended up working for us. And it was fun for the team, because racing together, that's what we kind of dream about and talk about at the shop is racing for the win together. And Trickle, he done a great job, and it was just fun. I had a great day, and I'm just happy for Kleenex and Scott.
A couple of other drivers with good runs at Hickory were Jason Keller and Elliott Sadler. Keller started the race 24th and picked his way up to finish 7th, while Sadler ran in the back half of the field most of the day, only to charge his way up to 8th in the final laps. Speaking of Sadler, after running the first 7 races of the season without a sponsor, his impressive performances have finally paid off as Phillips 66 announced in Texas that they'll sponsor Sadler in Busch Grand National for the next 2 years and possibly look at moving to Winston Cup in the 3rd year. There was one other storyline that all the media was following last week in Hickory. Dale Jarrett's son Jason ran his first ever Busch Grand National race, driving his father's number 32 with sponsorship from Hudson Technologies. Jason has been competing at Hickory for a couple of years in the late model ranks, but moving up to NASCAR's number 2 division was definitely a big deal for the 3rd generation driver.
It's pretty exciting. It hasn't really sunk in. I've been so busy this morning with trying to balance the late model practice and the Busch practice, but I think once I sit down out there with the 29 other guys or 30 other guys, it's really going to give me a good feeling knowing that knowing the heritage my family has in the sport and at this track.
I'm excited for Jason. Glad that it was able to happen here at Hickory, where everybody, his friends and his family, can see him run his first Busch Grand National race. I know it's a tough place for him to start and didn't get a whole lot of practice and all of that, but he's got 300 laps to find out exactly what this is all about.
During the race, Jason earned a rookie stripe when he tagged the wall while trying to make a pass. No major harm, though, and Jarrett continued on, bringing his Ford home a solid 21st.
You know, that's what you always shoot for, to end up better than what you started, and I wish I wouldn't have gotten into the wall there, but because the car was actually driving pretty good. I think, you know, not knowing exactly the line to take when to pass somebody in these cars and how hard I could I'd get under them and maybe get myself pinched off a little too much and actually give them too much room. But I got up on the outside there trying to pass the car and probably got a little bit too brave, but I was that confident in the Hudson Technologies Ford, and you know, I guess that's going to happen sometimes.
He did a really good job all day long. And I was very impressed that he could work the traffic as well as he did and run as fast as he did really throughout the day. Made one slight mistake that we all make, and that's how you learn, and that's what this is about. And you know, he was trying to make a pass on the outside and got a little too high and too hard, and that's what it's about. But he did a good job even after that, so very proud of him, and we'll get him ready to go to Nashville.
In a couple of weeks, the Busch Series does travel to Nashville Speedway in Tennessee. And in honor of the trip to Music City, USA, the Series Ladies Association is bringing Race Fever 97 to the fans.
Well, basically, it's just one huge rockin' party. We have drivers coming out, show cars, simulators, all kinds of souvenir rigs. We have country music stars, all kinds of entertainment, live music. The drivers interact with the crowd. It's just a real fun party.
We are very excited about that. I was just told that that's probably going to be our largest fundraiser this year, and that's what it's going to take. We started from scratch. We were formed October of last year, have 115 members, so the more fundraisers we can have, and of course the more money that we can get at these events, and it just helps benefit the guys when that time does come, because the more money we have, then the bigger percentage that they'll get. So we're very excited about Nashville.
Well, that's all the time we have for this segment of Inside NASCAR. But when we come back, Ned will rejoin you from the shops of Darrell Waltrip. Once again, the Winston Cup Series will take the green flag for the inaugural Interstate Batteries 500 tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern at the new Texas Motor Speedway. And we'll be back here tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern to set up that historic race. So don't forget to set your clocks ahead tonight and be sure to join us then. We'll be right back.
We're at Darrell Waltrip Motorsports in Harrisburg, North Carolina. This is one of the chrome Parts America Chevrolets that Darrell will drive in various races during the 1997 season, including the race this weekend at the Texas Motor Speedway. Darrell is celebrating 25 years of racing in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series. Tickets are hard to come by for most NASCAR Winston Cup races. Well, how about the Texas Motor Speedway? Were they hard to get there? Tyler Potter has the story.
I'm standing in front of the AAA travel agency here in Charlotte, North Carolina, trying to find tickets for the inaugural Texas Winston Cup race. Now, I know the race is sold out, and I know it's the last minute, but that doesn't mean there aren't still tickets to be had. Let's see what we can come up with.
No, we don't carry them.
Well, you had a whole lot of other people, but I will tell you, at this late date, I can't guarantee you anything.
Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have tickets here.
Okay, it sounds like you might know where we can get some then.
Sure do. Yeah.
Tell us where.
Sports stores.
Hello, Roach Stores.
Yes, I hope you can help us. We're trying to find out if you guys have any packages put together to go to the NASCAR race down in Texas.
Yeah, we sure do.
You do? Okay, are they packages that include hotel and getting down there and certainly the tickets to the race?
Right, they include round-trip airfare, hotel accommodations for 3 nights, all your ground transportation, and tickets to Saturday and Sunday night's race.
Wow, terrific. And that includes a last minute like this?
Yes, it does. We've got about 4 slots left.
Roach's package will run you $665 per person, but that's not bad when you consider what you're getting, especially this late. Round-trip airfare, 3 nights lodging, tickets to the races, transfers to and from the track, and a tour of Dallas. Out of the others we called, Sports America offered the best price at $399, but it was land only. 3 nights at the Renaissance, tickets to the races, daily transfers, a welcome reception, and a steak dinner before Sunday's Cup race. Well, now we're at the Charlotte Airport, and you may be wondering, what are we doing here? Well, we didn't have any luck with the travel agencies and the sports tours. They had tickets, but they would have cost us an arm and a leg, so what the heck? Let's go to Texas. Texas, we're at the Speedway office, and we've got to get tickets here. I mean, this is as good a place as any. Let's walk up and ask this gentleman. Sir, we have been trying so hard to get tickets to this race. Tell us that you can get us tickets.
I wish I could, fellas. We haven't had a Winston Cup ticket for 6 weeks or so.
Come on, there's got to be something you can do. You work behind the counter. Any options at all?
Yeah, yes, we can sell you some PSLs, permanent seat license for $750 to $2,000.
I don't have that kind of money on me, though.
Well, is that the case? Let me offer you these complimentary tickets to the qualifying.
Well, I've got qualifying tickets, but they're not going to help me too much for Sunday's race, so let's head downtown. We're in downtown Fort Worth on Main Street. Now, we still don't have tickets to the event, but I feel our luck's about to change. Let's try this gentleman right here. Can you help us out? We're looking for tickets to the race.
No, I sure can help you. I don't have any. If I did, I'd let you have them, though.
You've got a cowboy hat. You're obviously a true Texan. You've got to be able to come through for us.
Well, if you had a day or so, maybe I could, but I don't. Maybe Visitors Bureau or something here. I don't know.
Read the business press tomorrow, and you'll find it.
What's that?
Read the business press. It's the Tarrant County Business Journal. You want to be a bartender?
Will it get us into the race?
Yes, it's getting me into the race.
Probably get you a couple of tickets for about $5 or $6 grand.
This is on TV now.
Outrageous. It's on TV. Well, watch it on television then, I guess.
Well, what can I say except we tried, but you know what? I don't need tickets anyway since I'll be covering the race. As for you, good luck, and we'll see you April 6th.
Hi, this is Jeff Hammond, crew chief with Parts America Chevrolet. Today the topic is tow and how we set it. Use either a tow stick with tow plates or the 2 aluminum plates and a tape measure. Tow is very critical to a race car. It helps the car get down in the corner and it makes it easier for the driver to drive it. My preference is the old-fashioned way, a string. Remember, some of the tallest buildings in the world are built with a string. And I find it very easy for me to be able to see what the car is doing because of the string and the way we use it. It allows me to see the alignment of the front tire with the rear tire and tell exactly how much tow we have in the front of the car. As you can see here, we have quite a bit of tow out in this tire. Sometimes it's not necessary to run as much, Sometimes it is. On the speedways, we use very little toe. On the short tracks, we put a little more in to help the car get around the corner. The adjustments are done within the engine compartment here at the tie rod. We can adjust it either in or out. This also becomes very critical in case of an accident. During a race, we can come in and adjust the toe, especially if it's been knocked out and the driver has the trouble getting around the corner. So the next time you hear on the radio that a guy's got a problem with his toe end, you can understand what we're working on and why.
Morgan Shepherd is driving for the Richard Jackson team this year. They race Pontiacs, and they've had some good runs in the first 5 races of the 1997 season, but they aren't sure how long they'll be able to race because they don't have sponsorship. Glenn Jarrett has the story.
One of the most pleasant surprises of the Young Winston Cup season so far has been the performance of Morgan Shepherd in Richard Jackson's Pontiac. The team has already posted 2 top 10 finishes in the first 5 races. One of those a really strong 3rd place run at Atlanta. I had the opportunity to sit down with Morgan and talk about the season so far. Well, Morgan, as I said, you guys have really run well to begin this year. There seems to be some real chemistry here.
Well, I think it is with any team that you go to. That's the first thing that you got to get by. You got to figure out whether the chemistry is there or not. And undoubtedly, I fit in real well with this team because we've took right off and we've seen some success.
Are you surprised at all about the early success that you guys have enjoyed?
Well, I'm surprised that we're as strong as we are because, let's face it, this team went through a big change. There's only 2 guys here that was here last year, and that makes it very hard at this day and time with the way these teams has got to perform and the things they got to do to get in the races and everything. I was surprised that we have this much strength.
I sense a real feeling of comfort with you and working with Richard Jackson. Of course, we were talking earlier about what a good human being he is, but he's a good guy to work with.
Well, you know, I've driven for several different teams, and some of the greatest people I've ever driven for was the Woods brothers. It was the most comfortable situation. We just kind of gelled together, and I spent 4 years there, just really a good deal. And coming in here with Richard, I've got the same situation, if not better. I mean, this guy's just down to earth. There's nobody out there that wouldn't be tickled death to be associated with Richard Jackson and Precision Products.
Unfortunately, Morgan, on-track success doesn't always guarantee the financial requirements that a team needs, and I understand that you folks are in need of a little extra help, a little extra money.
We are, and you know, Richard lost his sponsor last year, and so it's kind of going back to building the situation. Delco Remy America came on at Daytona, Cruising America Catalyst Communications, and their commitment was just to the Daytona race. But then they seen some other interests. They thought, you know, they want to stay in racing, and so that's what they're working on now is putting something together for the rest of the year. But we're in bad need of an associate sponsor to keep this #1 Pontiac going.
Probably would be a pretty good bargain because this place is pretty modest by Winston Cup standards. You don't have the stable of cars. You don't have the number of personnel. Fortunately, he does have his own engine shop, but got to be a pretty good feeling for you guys to go out there and kick some tail on Sunday afternoon with guys that are getting $3 and $4 more million a year than you're getting.
Well, you know, first of all, at Rockingham, it's been since 1988 since I really run good at Rockingham. And we came right up through the pack, was running up in the top 3 and ended up 10th in that race. To be that competitive and me be back running good at Rockingham, I was just thrilled. And then Atlanta, I've had 3 straight bad races down there. And with Richard Jackson, we was back in the hunt to the win. Of course, your brother Dale won, and we pulled for the Conover boys. So it's just good to be back competitive and to be doing it with no more funding we've got, with a team that's all new guys, that's really pulling together now. We're starting to get our pit stops in place. I mean, it's just, you know, what can I say? It's just a great feeling to come in. It's kind of like David and Goliath, you know. These guys can kick butt.
Morgan, if that associate sponsorship is not forthcoming pretty soon, what are the plans for the team? How much longer can you go on?
Well, let's face it, it takes at least $100,000 a race to run these cars. It takes $250,000 to go to Daytona. You got to spend that much money with the restrictor plate, and it'll break a rich man. So, you know, we can't hold out much longer. We need some funding to keep this team going.
Morgan, I look back at the number of years that I've known you, probably more years than you or I either one would want to admit. But I can remember when I started my very brief career in 1972, running at Hickory Speedway. You were running there. You went on into Winston Cup, I believe, in 1981. This is your 16th, 17th year in Winston Cup racing. If this deal for some reason fell apart, if the money weren't forthcoming and Richard wasn't able to keep the team going, what would Morgan Shepherd do?
Well, Glenn, I'd probably do a lot more roller skating. I don't know. You know, I've got my own race shop. I've got engine shop, everything it takes to go Winston Cup racing. You know, maybe I would open up the opportunity of taking a young driver in and setting up a race shop and me managing it or whatever. But God has blessed me well. Still got my health. Still love to drive a race car. Still can drive a race car. I'm not ready to quit. It's going to be a long time before Morgan Shepherd quits. And whenever God says it's time, then I'll quit.
Many of the drivers in NASCAR went out to the new Texas Motor Speedway a few weeks ago to test. And while they were there, they were treated to a Texas-style barbecue. And our Tyler Potter was there, too.
Texas is famous for its Longhorns. And for Texans, that means barbecue.
This is a beef brisket. In Texas, when most people are doing barbecue, beef brisket's what they get generally, either sliced or chopped. Whereas in the Southeast, in the NASCAR circuit, they're doing pork butts. In Texas, we got a little more land to raise cattle, so we do the beef thing.
While testing at the Texas Motor Speedway, NASCAR drivers and teams gathered for this good old-fashioned Lone Star-style lunch.
Is that a smoking armadillo right there?
Some 500 people stood in the chow line for everything from pork ribs and butt to jalapeno peppers.
Oh, it's just a little something to eat. There's a few ribs and some chicken, brisket, I don't know, beans, jalapeno there.
Any idea how to eat that jalapeno?
Slowly. Slowly with a lot of iced tea.
Well, Rusty, what do you think of your, is it your first Texas barbecue, and if so, how do you enjoy it?
It is my first. I enjoy it a lot. It's great. These guys did a super job. Got tight quarters in here, but that food's good.
Nothing left on that plate. I see, well, a little of that beef left, I guess.
That was the fat. So, you know, I'm a very health conscious person. I don't like to eat a lot of fat content food, so I figure if there's fat on it, I just don't eat it. I eat around it. That way I don't get any fat.
Jeff wasn't alone. Clean plates were the norm for all the drivers. Good thing for them there wasn't a race afterwards.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come, Darrell Waltrip, the mailbox, and lots more, so don't go away. We'll be right back.
Our shop, this is what, it's got everything on here it takes to make that car run. You can about build that car out of here except for the sheet metal parts.
Man, I've got a lot of them, I'll tell you that, but probably the most was we qualified third of the last Charlotte race, and the car was running great, had a great car, and one of the practices, somebody had laid oil down the racetrack and they threw the caution out. And I went on through thinking, oh, no big deal. I didn't know it was oil on the racetrack, spun out and wrecked the car. That's probably, definitely the most embarrassing moment.
I don't know. I've had so many of them, it'd be hard to pick your most embarrassing. The time I thought you could run around Charlotte wide open, that was a big one. How was I to know you had to lift? I was only 18. That's when I was in my genius stage.
That'd have to be Bristol. Pulling off. You know, the race ended on the caution, and I was distracted with what I was fixing to be doing and not with finishing the race. And that was, you know, obviously about the dumbest thing anybody could ever do is to go out and earn a win and give it away through stupidity. So.
Featherlight has become a very popular name around NASCAR racing. They make a lot of the car haulers and other vehicles that are used by the teams in the sport. Stephanie Boyd was able to go to their factory and take a tour how they make these things.
The majority of teams on the NASCAR Winston Cup Series use trailers manufactured by the Featherlight Company. It's where they keep their cars and equipment, and it also serves as their office and shop at the track. But before they ever get here to the garage area, they start a long way from anywhere near the NASCAR circuit. In fact, the manufacturing plant for Featherlight trailers sits a long way from pretty much anything at all. Located in the tiny little town of Cresco, Iowa, population not quite 3,700, the town only has one main street, and just about everyone in the area works for Featherlight. The company started out making trailers to haul cattle, and that, along with their horse trailers, still makes up the majority of their business. But in the late 1980s, Featherlight hooked up with Richard Childress to make its first trailer to haul cars. And now the company does about $20 million worth of business in racing. That includes the majority of the trailers used in Winston Cup, Truck, and Busch Grand National, as well as the Kart and IRL series. Each unit is custom made, and like anything else, it starts from the drawing board with Featherlight's team of engineers.
We create sales drawings that are top views, which you see here, and then we'll do elevation views, which are the side views that show what the layout of the interior of the trailer is going to be.
After the layout is complete, customers can visit the interior design room to pick out colors, coverings, and furnishings, or they can simply choose from sample books. Then once all the planning is complete, it's time to actually start building the trailer.
The trailers start over here in the floor jig. This is a floor for a NASCAR Winston Cup trailer that just come off the jig, and after the floor is built, it goes over in the main trailer jig and is tied to the axle assembly, and it just starts from there and goes up. After the floor is assembled, they come over and they're putting the main jig where the floor jig is tied to the axle assembly. The floor sheets are put on, the side posts are put on the trailer. Then the side sheets go on the trailer. And the angle you see welded up there, that holds the start of the second deck, which we'll see when we move ahead where the race cars are hauled. They assemble it from bottom to top. The last thing is put on here before the side sheets are put on is the roof is put on. It's a one-piece roof. It's a 53-foot roof all in one piece. The trailer's rolled up to the second station where the lift gate's put on. The upper deck is put in the trailer where the cars are hauled. The trailer's wired and lined. The roll-up doors put in it. Now let's walk up to the front of the trailer. This is the frame of the generator compartment where the generator goes. This is the frame of the trailer, or frame of the generator compartment. And up at the front of this next trailer is where they sheet it. Up here, this is a finished generator compartment where it's all sheeted with stainless steel radius corners. And this whole trailer now is a finished product and ready to go to the interior shop to get the interiors put in it.
To get the interiors ready, pieces have to be cut and assembled in the cabinet shop before they can be installed in the shell. Then finally, everything is put together before heading off to be painted. Once the trailer reaches the track, the race team should have everything just the way they like it. The Morgan McClure bunch spent over $200,000 on their latest Featherlight, which was just completed a couple of weeks ago.
We wanted these doors, these type doors, where you can come in here and you raise them up, and it can stay open, and it's not swung back in the way. This stuff that we come up with, we wanted. It's got everything on here it takes to make that car run. You can about build that car out of here except for the sheet metal parts. All of our gauges, everything's set up. We can change the whole dash in that car, because we got it already put together. Then you got like the team closets where all their uniform stuff stay. When you order the trailer, they build it, set up for the shop dyno, And we fix these doors where they slide back in there out of the way. All your computer and everything's there. The dyno. We took the dyno, they just build it for it, and we put it in it, when it comes.
And what about back here?
We set ours up where we can haul 4 engines. We can haul one here, one there, one there. And the one here, we set up where we can haul the transmission. Our race motor, it's ready to go in the car. We can haul it with the headers, transmission, everything right on it, ready to go.
Of course, no trailer would be complete without a kitchen for the crew, and overhead there's room enough for a race car and a backup. Then finally, there's the crowning glory, the lounge. It's where drivers and team members can hold meetings or just relax. It's just one more item that helps set Featherlight's trailers apart, making it easy to see why they've been made the official trailer of NASCAR.
That's fascinating. Thank you, Steph. Still to come, a chat with Darrell Waltrip, the mailbox, and lots more, so don't go away. The Inside NASCAR mailbox is brought to you by Miller Lite. Our question today is from Rick Hauser from Smyrna, Tennessee. Can a driver get back into his car after he puts in a relief driver?
Hi, I'm Elton Sawyer, driver number 38 Barbasol Ford. Rick, that's a great question. In the event that the primary driver does get sick or is injured, as long as he's feeling okay, he can get back in the car.
If you have a question for the Inside NASCAR mailbox, write to us at Inside NASCAR. Post Office Box 240417, Charlotte, North Carolina 28224. If we use your question on the air, you'll receive this embroidered Miller Lite jacket and a cap and shirt from Chase Authentics, the authentic trackside apparel of NASCAR.
Darrell Waltrip is celebrating his 25 years in NASCAR Winston Cup racing in 1997. And to help celebrate that, he's using 5 different color schemes on his Parts America Chevrolets. Some of the sponsors that he's had in the past, and this particular one here is the Budweiser colors that he was so successful with a number of years ago. And he'll run this car in the Food City 500 next weekend at the Bristol Motor Speedway. Now, Darrell's going to be on Inside NASCAR with us during the year as he talks about his 25 years in racing. And this week, he talks about some of the new tracks coming on.
Well, one of the things that fans are a little bit critical of, and rightfully so, is, you know, we've lost North Wilkesboro, and I'm sure there's probably track owners right now that are sitting on the edge of their seat hoping that they don't have anything happen to their dates. But you have to realize something. This sport is driven by our sponsors. The sponsors, the Parts Americas of this world, say we would like to see a race in Texas. The DuPonts and the Tides and the Budweisers and the McDonald's, all these people are saying, well, we'd like to see a race in California, in the LA area, and well, we'd like to see one in St. Louis, and well, we'd like to see one in Wisconsin and New Hampshire, and you know, we got all these sponsors that have interest all over this country. We're just not a little regional sport anymore. We're a huge entity today, and we're driven by what the sponsors want and what the fans want. Fans see us on television, they want us in their own backyard. And with all that said, what's happening to our sport is we're being drawn in a lot of different directions. All for the better, I might add. Bigger is better. In this case, bigger is better because bigger means I get to go back to Parts America and say, I need more money. And that's going to give me a bigger budget to build a better car, to put on a better show for the fans. So right now, I think the big thing that we all have to realize is this sport is in a huge growth cycle. And the reason for that is because of demand. Demand by the sponsors and demand by the fans, demand by the media, I might add, that say we want to see this sport in a bigger and better arena. And NASCAR, I think, in their wisdom, is making that happen slowly but surely. It's putting a huge burden on these teams right now to do 32 races with the thought of maybe doing 34 or 35. But it's so important to the future of our sport that we go to these places. The Las Vegas, great racetrack, and I expect we'll be there one of these days. And there's some others, Homestead, and probably some other racetracks that are being built as we speak that this sport will need to go to. And we've got to make that, we got to take advantage of this opportunity because it will mean the difference of this sport becoming a national sport, a major league sport, or staying kind of grassroots and in the Southeast.
That old rumor that the Bodines are still feuding is far from accurate.
From inside the garage and pit areas these days, it's obvious the Bodines are teaming up to share race strategy and track information. The Insider Cam caught Jeff and Brent Bodine in brother Todd's bush pit recently in what I've been told is a new effort to share information for better race results. Country singer Kenny Chesney has turned into quite the race fan. He brought his entire band to the race in Atlanta, and he let them watch the race from his tour bus. Who's your favorite race driver?
Sterling Martin.
Clay Walker's favorite driver is Ted Musgrave, and he hung out recently in Musgrave's transport. In fact, there were so many media interviewing Walker in Musgrave's transport, Musgrave had to find another transport to change into his uniform in. The Texas Motor Speedway inaugural event this weekend has drawn a stellar list of celebrities to the track. The Bellamy brothers, Sammy Kershaw, Ricochet, the Charlie Daniels Band, Colin Ray, and Wade Hayes will be there. I've also heard that Mark Chestnut, Tracy Lawrence, Tuff Hedeman, the bull rider, Toby Keith, Roger Staubach, Chuck Norris, Herschel Walker, and of course Troy Aikman will be in attendance. I've even had word that Sandra Bullock and Matthew McConaughey will be attending the race. It is a who's who to kick off the inaugural Lone Star Racing extravaganza. And here is a sneak look at the Sam Bass inaugural Texas Motor Speedway race program design. Lining up drivers for commemorative photos at new tracks and at tracks getting new configurations is becoming a regular occurrence and increasingly difficult these days. Here's an insider's look as NASCAR's Kevin Triplett tries to stage a finish line photo of the drivers. Through it all, Ernie Irvin and Jeff Bodine talked race strategy. Maybe it helps to see what your favorite driver goes through before you even ask for an autograph. One event that drew a huge crowd in the garage area in Darlington was drivers Jeff Gordon and Terry Labonte and crew chief Ray Evernham reading from cue cards for a Bone Marrow 2 PSA in support of their owner, Rick Hendrick. Speculation that track owner Bruton Smith may open another track in Atlantic City, New Jersey, well, that made headlines in the paper there this week. Bruton told me, yeah, he looked at the area, but he says he's looking at all kinds of property these days, and he's just looking at Atlantic City amongst other locations. Well, it's off to Texas, and when the race is over, the Kyle Petty charity ride will take off from the Texas Motor Speedway. Kyle Petty, Richard Petty, the Bodines, Harry Gant, and I'll be along on the ride, so stay tuned for some great insider news. Till next time, for the Illustrated Insider, I'm Claire B. Lang.
If you have ideas for the Illustrated Insider, you can email Claire B. Lang at insidercbl@aol.com. Or if you'd like to read more, you can find Claire's monthly column in Winston Cup Illustrated. Call 1-800-883-7323 to begin your subscription.
It's time for us to take a short break right now, but first, let's take a look at what's coming up next week right here on TNN on Inside NASCAR.
After grabbing the Busch Series title in '94 and backing that up with a second-place finish last season, David Green and his Buzz McCall-owned Caterpillar Racing team decided to make the jump to Cup in '97. We'll talk to the Owensboro, Kentucky native about his chase for Rookie of the Year honors. After a less than successful career on the Busch circuit, Jack Sprague's racing career got a jump start with the formation of the Craftsman Truck Series 3 years ago. Sprague has been a dominating force at times in his Hendrick-owned truck, but what is next? We caught up with the Quaker State guys during a recent test session and talked to the 96 points runner-up. As the sport of NASCAR racing continues to grow, so do the expenses to run a competitive team from week to week. 1997 has started with a handful of teams trying to compete with little or no backing. How long can they go, and is the sport beginning to price itself out of business? Those are some of the questions we'll answer next week on Inside NASCAR.
When a new track comes on the circuit like the Texas Motor Speedway this weekend, it's a learning experience, not only for the drivers and the teams, but the media as well. They got to find out what's going on and who's who. Well, that's the subject of this week's Inside NASCAR Profile.
It's a big deal for me to get one, which to me is the most exciting.
Michael Waltrip, I didn't know that Darrell Waltrip's brother actually raced too. It's terrible, isn't it?
think are going to do, and that's what's going on the rainy day. Most of it's done, but we'll find something.
Who won the points championship last year? Who won last week's race? You know, just some things that would seem to the normal racing fan very trivial. But to the guys who cover sports here for a living, they're asking those kind of questions.
I had somebody ask me, he said, who's that guy? Is he famous? And I said, no, it's just Rusty Wallace. So we're going to have to teach y'all, and we'll be patient with you. And
you know, surprisingly, I think they gave out pictures of most of the drivers that were coming here.
Everybody calls me Ward. Of course, I do that anyway, so it doesn't matter.
And to get points, you run all the races. So, you know, that's what it is. And there's 32 races on the schedule or whatever there is. You run all the races to get all the points. And that's what it's all about.
It's like me coming down here and trying to interview rodeo riders. I wouldn't have a clue. And some of these guys, they just don't have a clue. We've just not been there yet, you know what I mean? And it's kind of fun. and it's kind of neat to touch them. And it's not only the media that are here, it's the people that are at the gates and stuff too. I pulled up to a gate out there, and somebody was in front. I think Rusty and someone was in front of me, and I said, I'm with them, I'm media. So I just followed them on in, so as far as they know, I'm in here with the media.
You know, the Dallas Stars came here, the hockey team came here a couple of years ago. Everybody was pretty much clueless about hockey at the time, but they get educated real quick. And I think NASCAR, if early indications or you know, if it indicates what's going to take place in future years, I think it's obvious that NASCAR is going to do very well here in Texas.
Well, that's all the time we have for this show. We hope you enjoyed it. And our thanks to all the folks here at Darrell Waltrip Motorsports for allowing us to show you around their shops. You join us again here on TNN for more on Inside NASCAR.